In this video, I'm going to be discussing the North Node in Capricorn placement in the natal birth chart. So if you have this placement, then it means that your South Node is in the opposite sign of Cancer. The North Node and South Node are two mathematical points in astrology that are the nodes of the moon. So the South Node is, and the North Node travel retrograde, and they travel exactly opposite each other at the same degree. The South Node indicates our comfort zone, what we're coming in with that we're so used to on an emotional level, and we can become enmeshed in this and stuck in this. And it can be easy to go back to that comfort zone and get pulled down to that place, but we limit ourselves here. We're small here. We don't find the growth. We don't find a sense of, I'm doing something that fulfills my soul. That's where the North Node comes in. And it may be a stretch, but if we follow our soul calling and we head in this direction, we find happiness. We feel better about ourselves. We feel like we are living out our destiny, our purpose, and we're really becoming who it is that we feel that we are meant to become. We really grow and integrate another part of ourselves with our South Node, and balance the North Node qualities with the South Node qualities to find harmony and equilibrium and true inner peace. So that's a little short, brief description on the South Node and North Node, what they mean in astrology. Of course, I have a whole nother video about this. You can go check it out on my YouTube channel. The video is called The South Node and North Node in Astrology or something like that. Either way, it's still that video, and I hope that you consider watching that because I go into more detail and depth. And I'm more informative when it comes to talking about what these placements mean in your natal chart and in general. So let's take a look at the South Node in Cancer. So this deals with Cancer is a very emotional sign. And you come from a place of emotional, being very emotional and being very tuned in and tapped in to your emotions and also your intuition. And all these can be positive traits when you are really connected with your family in a really deep way. However, the South Node also indicates the sign in excess, an extreme, overdone, intense expression of that sign that can be the shadow sides of that sign, where it's too much and you need to move out of the shadows and rise above that that land, that forest burning, or that volcano erupting into the clouds and rising above the fray, which comes to be a huge thing for the South Node in Cancer, North Node, and Capricorn placement. More on that later. But this deals with being not just connected to your family. I am talking enmeshed, entangled in a bond with your family that is, so tight knit and so stuck where, you almost lose your sense of self and your identity. Cancer as a sign, its symbol is the crab. And the crab is very sensitive and has a hard outer shell and a softer inner shell. When you get to know the Cancer, when you get to spend time with it and really open up and get to know the Cancer, once Cancer gets used to you, then it, opens up more and it becomes more comfortable and finds a sense of peace. And, it's more easily able to open up once it feels like it can trust whoever it is with on an emotional level. Once it feels like whoever Cancer is with is, feels like home to them. So, Cancer symbol is the crab. And so, the crab sort of wants to hide in the sand, or it's afraid of the waves sort of, knocking it out. And that can indicate that incredible sensitivity where you're sort of, closing in, from the world because of wanting to escape this reality that we live in, this real life that we live in. And it wants to establish a nest somewhere comfy and cozy and somewhere where it can feel emotionally secure. Emotional security is a really big thing for the South Node in Cancer. So, another huge part of this is emotional neediness, or the need to be taken care of, in a huge way, where you are dependent on family or other people's to nurture you, take care of you, provide you with the things that you needed. And this could also show up on the downside is perhaps emotional manipulation, where in your relationships you have certain ways of getting them to take care of you, nurture you. And I don't want to say nurture, but this can even go as far as babying or coddling. And there is a major difference between coddling somebody and nurturing them to help them along, take care of them, but then allow them to be themselves and, be independent, live their own lives. And that's the North Node in Capricorn. So, emotionally, manipulating other people and depending upon other people for, love and, emotional connection. And, watch out for this tendency, because the South Node indicates certain unconscious patterns or tendencies that you carry with you into this incarnation, perhaps from previous lifetimes, if that's what you believe, but it's just the unconscious tendencies and ways of being that you bring in with you when you were born. That's that South Node. And there's certain gifts of it, but there are those shadow sides which need to be brought into the light of awareness and released. Yeah, and it's so interesting why I don't have this placement, because I am very connected with my family. And there are times when I feel like I need to step out of that and do my own thing, go my own way, establish my own goals. However, I also have my North Node in an Earth sign, in the sign of Taurus, which is also similar. But that North Node is about more inner peace, security, being more present. But, that's more of what it has to do with. But it is similar. I have my Saturn in Cancer. Saturn rules Capricorn. And I'm not going to go into the traits of Saturn, but, because that's what I'm going to be discussing. But it rules Capricorn, the sign that the North Node is in. And so my Saturn is in Cancer, so that's an area that I may have to work harder at, achieving and mastering in this lifetime. And it is really where, that life lesson and the challenge and a huge part of my purpose in this lifetime through an astrological lens is. Saturn rules your purpose in this lifetime. So if you have displacement, I would say that wherever your Saturn is really important to look at and fulfill and work towards achieving in this lifetime. And the house of this North Node placement in your natal chart is also really relevant to consider, as this is the area of life where you will find the most growth and fulfillment if you approach this area of life in this way, which is your North Node in Capricorn. So, something also with the South Node in Cancer is being so accustomed to taking care and tending to others' needs, taking care of others. Nurturing was a huge part of you. We're so used to nurturing. Um, yeah. And so another part of this is being so enmeshed in your feelings that you allowed them to cloud your judgment and the logic and left brain sort of way of approaching your life. Where you felt like doing something and acting on your feelings, when in this lifetime it is about balancing out with being able and cultivating rational thinking and stepping into your logical mind with how you approach conflict, how you make decisions, making decisions and moving your life in a rational way, and deciding to do this or approach this in a rational way. Yeah, the South Node Cancer is very sensitive, sort of a soul memory being very sensitive. Now, in terms of entanglement with the family, what about unhealthy family dynamics? Certain members may have been too controlling or restricting, or maybe even, and I don't want to make any assumptions, but possibly violent, possibly abusive. Um, and with this placement, it is going to be especially harrowing and profound if people who have this placement grew up in a family full of abusive parents, or parents who perhaps spoke a different language as them, or parents who had some sort of debilitating kind of disability, being deafblind. And of course, we know that it's not a disability; it's just a different ability. However, um, just like the North Node and Capricorn, let's approach this from a rational point of view, um, from that kind of perspective. And when I was reading and doing my research on this placement, I was reading that this particular placement, certain family members may have been distant from you, or you may have felt like you didn't get or receive the nurturing and love that you wanted to. And it may not feel like enough. It may never be enough. It may never satisfy you. That South Node can be kind of sort of a bottomless pit where the more you put energy into that direction, it just does not feel like you're getting anymore. I'm going to say the same thing about the North Node, because that's also a downside. It's known as Rahu, the dragon's head. And, you know, we can get very hard on ourselves, like we're not enough. We're not, working hard towards our North Node enough, where we need to drop into our South Node and balance it out. So, yeah, it's about releasing those certain trauma or certain wounds from the past in relation to family, especially if anyone in the family has hurt you, or if you again felt unloved, or again did not receive that nurturance, then it is time to, instead of being drowned in the emotions of family, continue being pulled back in that direction to release that. Becoming very immature is another quality. It again goes back to emotional neediness, and reacting to your emotions, reacting instead of responding in a responsible, mature, adult, um, and more rational, constructive way about your emotions. Um, Now, the final note here about the South Node in Cancer is getting really, really caught in how things used to be in the past, nostalgia of how things were, instead of living in what's called 24 hours, or living in the here and now, this moment right here and now. Can you sit at a restaurant, at a cafe, somewhere, perhaps getting away from family. We don't want to, negate the South Node or leave it behind, but um, detaching yourself in a healthy way from family and really finding your own sense of self is a really, really huge thing for this placement to do in this lifetime. So it's about, releasing, that nostalgia and reminiscing and getting caught in wishful thinking. And it is about being in here and now and living and, doing what you can, doing what you can, doing the do things in the here and now. So, because that's really, really where your power lies. Now, the North Node in Capricorn, a huge part of this is setting boundaries. That where you are addressing and being honest and speaking up about your needs and wants, having a lot of self-respect to be independent, own who you are, and know your goals, know what you need to achieve in this lifetime, and not getting caught in the need to not letting family ties hold you back from that. um Independence, being independent, is super important. Establishing a goal that you can consistently work towards is another big issue. Like, really looking at what is your relationship to your career, what is your relationship to the external world around you. It's not so much about the little bubble of your family. There is a bigger world out there, and it is about getting out into the world and making something happen and really being independent. Capricorn is a cardinal sign, and I think a lot of Capricorn parents in general, since we are talking about family here, in general, I think a really huge value for Capricorn parents is training and raising their children, and I want to say instilling in them the value of being self-sufficient, taking care of themselves, being independent. So, what are your own goals that you want to achieve? So yeah, I've already spoken about applying logic to situations, and putting the hard work in, not going back to that South Node, and getting stuck in that comfort zone when it feels hard, because it may require being uncomfortable and putting the hard work. But if it feels right, and if your soul is calling that, then that's maybe what it will require, because Capricorn is about hard work. And I think the themes of the South Node and North Node in general are particularly relevant to this particular placement. Um, so the North Node is Dharma, your Dharma, because the origins of how the South Node and North Node go back to are in Vedic astrology. So working hard and accomplishing something that you feel good about, um, maturity, becoming grown up, um, and making decisions for yourself, and doing the things that need to be done, even if you just may not be in the mood. That's another part of this. Taking responsibility for your life is huge. With this, ownership of your actions, taking responsibility and being accountable for the things that you say and do, and owning up for what you say and do, and doing your part, and not so much. I'm not talking about being responsible, and this could be being the backbone of your family, but just taking responsibility for more. It has to do with your goals more than family in a way, but it can be both. And I mean, if your North Node in Capricorn is in the fourth house, then it may mean stepping up to the plate and being more responsible for your family and your home and your emotions, and tending to your house in a more responsible, pragmatic, and practical way. So yeah. Um, so this is also dealing with planning strategically. Strategic planning, having strategies of, is this going to work for the long term? How is this going to work out? What is the next step? What is going to work? What should I do here? Establishing that rational thinking, and that strategic thinking. Planning for the future is also super important. Um, and so, yeah. So, um, this also deals with commitment, really committing to your goals and becoming very disciplined, and not going to certain Cancerian, tendencies of letting your emotions cloud what you want to do, and getting caught in sort of emotional addictions as well that can be unhealthy. So, becoming very disciplined, um, in that way. So, yeah, another huge part of this is, creating your own life and really having healthy detachment to, rise above the fray of what is going on in your family life. And yeah, if those emotions really, those emotional waves drain you, and drown you, this is about detaching in a way, maybe, um, having looking at something more objectively, um, and with some perspective over what you're talking about and what you're doing in your life. So that's also a huge part of this. And yeah, knowing that, becoming in control, becoming empowered, really leading your own life, and being in control of your own actions, alone, and stepping into healthy separation. And the other small piece of this is, really facing the reality of what is going on in your life and situations, facing the reality and doing something constructively productive, that you can do with what the resources that you have available to you, um, in the present moment, and seeing things as they are, not seeing things how you would like to see them. And if this is not serving you, if this is not meant for you, if this is taken away from your life, that it's not about going back to the ways that things were, when that is no longer part of your story or identity anymore. It's good to let go and good to, move forward with your life is huge. Um, and really establishing your own inner authority, to determine what is right, what is not, with intuition, and not getting drowned out by emotions. But intuition is a real strong strength with the South Node in Cancer. So leading with your own intuition, your own inner authority, um, is huge. Really, not totally cutting yourself off from the family, but really, living your own life, establishing that self-respect and that inner authority. So yeah, so that is what this placement is all about. I hope that you found this really insightful and in depth, and I'll see you in another video.